Unfortunately, I seem to have found myself in a creative slump. Now, I say creative slump rather than just writing slump because honestly, when you're in a slump, it tends to affect everything that you do to express yourself creatively. So for me, yes, writing is the big one there, but it's also reading and it's also creating videos. You'll notice it's been a little bit longer than usual since I've posted. I've definitely been in a reading slump too. I'm reading books that I should be enjoying, and I know objectively that if it were any other time I would be enjoying it more, but it's just not hitting for me. And that's because the slump is in my creative energy and my creative sense of fulfillment, I guess, rather than in any particular activity. But this is not my first creative slump, and it won't be my last. So I wanted to come on and film a video to tell you 3 truths that I know about creative slumps after having experienced many of them, 3 reasons why this particular creative slump has come about so that you can learn how to identify similar warning signs in your own creative practice, and also 3 things that I'm going to do to get myself out of it. If you don't know who I am, my name's Sam. I'm a romance author based in the UK. I have 2 books out. The most recent one came out in March, The Summer Wedding in Santorini, and I'm working on what I'm calling Project Gilbert. I'll leave a link to the playlist for that in the description. You don't need any of that context for this video though. It's just the project that I'm working on as I talk about my writing. I also, you might not know if you're new around here, have a full-time job. So I work from 9 to 6 every single day for a French tech startup, which definitely keeps me busy. I don't have any kids, but I do have a golden retriever who needs very long daily walks. And I share all of that just to contextualize some of the things that we're going to talk about when we talk about like being busy and having a lot going on. Obviously, my version of a lot going on is going to look very different than other people's. So let's talk about 3 truths of creative slumps. And these are true for me, they're true for you, they're true for anyone who has any kind of creative practice, intentional or otherwise. First of all, they are creative slumps. Slumps tend to be in the creative energy and the flow that you feel when you're engaging in any kind of creative pursuit. I think this is a really important distinction because it means that you've not necessarily done anything wrong in your craft in order to get you to that point of being in a slump. And when you transition it from being like a practical craft related problem to being an energy problem, the solutions look a lot different and I think are a lot gentler on you as a writer. And again, that's true for any creative practice, not just writing. The second truth is that creative slumps are inevitable for anyone who practices a creative passion of any kind. It will always happen. All energies ebb and flow. Any other kind of energy that you have in your life, social energy, professional energy, sexual energy, it all ebbs and flows depending on environment and what's happening inside your body, psychological context. There's all kinds of reasons why different energies ebb and flow, and creative energy is just one of these. It is inevitable that any kind of energy is going to ebb at some point, and a creative slump is when that creative energy ebbs. It will happen. If you've never experienced it, get ready because it's going to happen. But that brings me to the third truth, which is that they pass. Just as your energy ebbs, it will flow again. And you kind of just have to ride it out sometimes. There are some things that you can do to try to get back in the flow, which I'll come to when I talk about the 3 things I'm going to do to try to get out of my slump, but it will pass. So all those truths aside, let's talk about my particular creative slump and why it's come about. First of all, for my context, I have been very busy lately. Like I said, I have a full-time job and I've actually had to go to France twice in the last month for that job for like 4 days at a time. So that takes up a lot of my time. I don't get to do any writing while I'm there, and that really pulls me out of the rhythm. Another thing that does is it really drains my social energy. And in addition, I've been a lot more social with my friend group lately than I usually am. Like every single weekend has had something. For me at least, and this may not be true for you, but certainly for me, my social energy and my creative energy come from 2 very different places. My social energy is a little bit more externally expressed and it's a bit more excitable and exuberant, whereas my creative energy is a bit more introspective and subdued. And in order to really lean into one of those, the other one kind of falls by the wayside. And I think because I've been so social lately, it's been a lot more difficult to then come back and tap into that creative energy. Being so busy as well also means that I've been very tired, so that creative energy doesn't come as easily to begin with, even when I do have the time. time for it. The second thing that I think has brought on this particular creative slump for me is a sense of obligation. Obviously, with a publishing contract, you have to work with deadlines and editors and stuff like that. But certainly with reading and with videos, I don't have any obligations around those. However, recently I've been feeling like I've created some obligations around those. So for example, if you don't already know this, I'm on a book buying ban for the year, and it means that I've signed up to the library for the first time as of the beginning of this year. And when I signed up to the library, I put a bunch of books on hold, and I've basically been using my library reserve list as my book reading wish list. And I found myself with like a ton of library books just constantly. And I can be quite a mood reader, so this is really difficult for me because at the moment I'm having to read things based on when they're due back. And similarly, I do feel a little bit of a sense of obligation around these videos now. I'm still a baby channel, but when you say that you're gonna put out videos once a week or twice a week or whatever it is, even if there are very few people that are gonna even notice, much less hold you to that, it still feels like an obligation that you've created. So that sense of obligation that I already have to battle with really hard in my writing because of my publishing contract has started to leach into other areas of creative expression. The last reason for this slump, I debated talking about in this video, but I'm going to for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it's insight as to how I work and communicate and what motivates me, but also I think it's a really important insight into the publishing industry. If you've been following along with Project Gilbert, you know that my publisher is aware of the project, and we've been in a dialogue for months about what the project's going to look like, what the next steps are. And at the moment, editors are more overworked than they ever have been. They're under a ton of pressure to put out more titles per editor than ever before. And it means that response times can be quite slow, especially when it's not something that's urgent. Now, when I work under a sense of urgency. That's the way my brain works. And so when I'm able to bounce ideas off of someone and sort of generate that excitement, that sort of sustains me a little bit and carries that energy through to my writing. Whereas when it's taking days or sometimes even weeks to get responses to like very simple questions, it can really zap the motivation. And again, that's not like anybody's fault. It's kind of the state of play at the moment, but it does make it really hard to generate that same level of excitement as if we were able to just hash out all these questions in one session and go from there. And from conversations I've had with people in my writing group and other people that I know, I think it's a common experience at the moment that it's actually quite difficult because of the position editors have been placed in to collaborate in the way we've used to in the past. And I imagine that's really frustrating for them as well. So how busy I am, the sense of obligation that I feel around my different creative pursuits, and the lack of quick, exciting, energetic communications around the writing that I'm doing, these things have all contributed to this creative slump in which I now find myself. So now let's talk about what I'm going to do to get out of it, because I do have a plan. Oh hey, by the way, did you know that this video is brought to you by my newsletter? I send it out every month, and I have two versions, one for if you're also a writer and one for if you're not and you just want to hear about books and creativity and more general stuff. I'll leave a link in the description so that you can sign up. Back to the video. First of all, I'm gonna go easy on myself because remember, this is inevitable. It will pass. It's an energy thing, not a craft thing. So I don't have to beat myself up about this. This is not something that is an emergency for me to solve. Like, it's something that will resolve over time. I want to resolve it a bit faster because of aforementioned deadlines and obligations, but I also am trying not to put pressure on myself because the least productive emotion for creativity is shame. And I've talked about this in videos before, but once you start feeling shame for not having the output that you wanted, it's game over. It will be so much harder for you to generate that output because shame is such a powerful demotivator in a creative practice. Going easy on myself also means I will not be overcorrecting. I will not be trying to take myself out of a creative slump by overcommitting myself and setting unrealistic goals or deadlines for myself. That's only going to contribute more to the creation of shame. It's not going to serve as the motivator that I need. Being gentle with myself will, and that's something that I've had to learn the hard way because when I hear that, like, be gentle with yourself, I'm like, no, like, that's not what I need right now. I need a firm hand. But over time, I've learned that it is being gentle with yourself and like trusting yourself that you will come through that slump. So just be patient with yourself. I'm begging you. You are a brilliant and creative person, and you deserve to be given the time to come out of it in an authentic and genuine and comfortable way without forcing yourself to do logistical or creative gymnastics to try to meet some manufactured goal. Please don't do that to yourself, and I won't be doing it to myself. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to lean into the structure that I've created for myself, where I have created structure. And in the areas where I haven't created structure, I'm going to create that structure. So what does that mean? For those of you who are new here, I write every single weekday. I should amend that and say I have writing time every single weekday. 99% of the time, writing happens to some level, even if it's just a few sentences during that writing time. I don't set myself word count goals. I set myself time commitment goals. And I find that that works best for me. I do it immediately after work, so it helps me set better boundaries with work. My writing routine, I am very strict with, but not in an overly strict way, in a gentle way, in a way where I know that the reason I'm being strict with it is because it's important to me. So I'm going to lean into that structure for my writing. Where I've not created structure for myself is with my other creative pursuits. So specifically reading and creating videos. Creating videos, I kind of just do whenever I have time for it, whether that's on my lunch break, like right now, or during my writing time, if I've already done some writing and I'm done for the day, or on the weekends. I just kind of do it whenever. And so what I want to do is create a bit more structured time for myself in my weeks where I am dedicated to video creation, because this is something that's important to me. It's something that I enjoy and something that I feel fulfilled by. So I do want to make time for it. It's important, and therefore it gets a place in my calendar. Same thing goes for reading, making sure that I'm creating structure. I think before bed is a really good time for me. I tend to go to bed a little bit before my husband, but we like to go to sleep at the same time. So spending that time reading instead of scrolling on my phone. So leaning into the structure I already have, creating structure that I don't already have, and then holding those structures. Part of being busy for me has involved overwriting some of that structure sometimes. So saying yes to things that are taking place during my writing time, or saying yes to things that involve changing the way that I allocate that time, or saying yes to things where I know that it means I'm saying no to getting to read a book or getting to create a video or whatever. And I don't have to say yes to those things. And I have friends that care about me and understand the creative things in my life and why they're important to me. And we will find time outside of that, which is dedicated to my creative practice, to spend time together and to do the things that we want to do. And if I have to say no to some things with my friends, I say no to some things with my friends. And if it sounds like I'm trying to convince myself that that's okay, that's exactly what's happening, because I suffer from serious FOMO. And like, if you're my friend watching this, please don't stop inviting me to things because you're worried about my creative slump. I need to get better at saying no to you when I don't want to come. So number 1, go easy on myself. Number 2, lean into structure. And number 3, I am going to do a challenge, but I'm going to be very specific about how I do this challenge and what challenge I do. In the month of May, I tried to do a challenge because I was feeling this creative slump coming on, and this was a challenge that was word count driven. I am not the biggest fan of word count goals because I think sometimes you can hit 1,000 words in like 45 minutes, or I can anyway, and sometimes it takes me 3 days to write 1,000 words. And so having a word count goal for a month or for each day is actually really hard to plan for. And when you're really busy, that can be really difficult, and it can make it feel like you're not going to be able to create time for writing, which makes you not even try. What I do need is something that I can integrate into my existing habits, so something that can be time driven. So I'm going to do challenges in each of the 3 areas. For my writing, I'm going to be doing a flash fiction challenge. I did this for the first time when I was doing my master's degree. I was in a class being taught by Leonie Ross, who is a brilliant author, and she had us do a flash fiction challenge for, I think it was only a week, but some of my best writing like ever are these less than 100 word things that I had to write within a couple of hours of seeing the prompt and post in a Facebook group for all of my classmates to read and judge. The reason why it works is because you have such a short time that it forces you to just get out of your own head. And the beauty of doing this challenge for myself is that no one has to see it. Although I have been toying with doing a video about it, so let me know in the comments if you would want to see the things I write during a flash fiction challenge, and maybe I will do that. Maybe I will show it to you. Not because they'll be good, but because it will make you feel better about the fact that it doesn't have to be good. When it comes to reading, my challenge to myself is that I need to DNF at least 1 in 5 books that I pick up. Now, they can be soft DNFs. I'm not saying I will never try this book again, but I need to be willing to put down books, especially ones that I've gotten from the library, if they're not doing it for me. For video creation, I think that the biggest barrier for me has actually been like concrete ideas. It's not actually the creation of the video or the editing of it. It's about having the idea and just feeling like I have something to say. And I never want to be the person that creates videos that like don't actually say anything because they didn't really have anything to say. They just had to get a video out that week. Like, that's not me. This is not my job. Like, I want to have something to say. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spend a couple of hours each week just doing some idea generation and scripting. I don't script my videos. I just have like bullet points. I've actually like handwritten bullet points on my iPad, but just doing that for a couple of hours a week so that I can generate the best ideas, so that I always have something that's exciting and relevant to me when I go to film, which I will have time to do within the new structure. So there you have it. I am in a creative slump, but that is okay because creative slumps are inevitable and it will pass. I know why it's happened. I know how to try to prevent that from happening in the future, and I have a plan for getting myself out of it now. You will encounter a creative slump at some point. You will get through that creative slump, but I also hope that this video has helped you understand some of the things that might contribute to a creative slump and also some ideas for how you can pull yourself out of it when you find yourself in one. If you're not already, be sure to hit subscribe, especially so that you can see this flash fiction challenge video that apparently I'm doing. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.